welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show, and good evening. I am your host, and my guest this evening is Bob Fiore from the Connecticut Epilepsy Advocate. Bob, welcome. How are you?
Good. Nice to meet you, and great to be here. Thanks.
Well, nice to meet you, and nice to have you here today. So, Bob, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll talk about the Advocate.
Sure. The Connecticut Epilepsy Advocate was started because people living with epilepsy in Connecticut just do not have enough sources to go to.
Okay.
We started this organization in November 2009, and we've been serving the entire state of Connecticut since then. We have a different way of looking at things. As I mentioned earlier, we are a small organization,
Right.
and even though we're based in Milford, as I said before, serve the entire state of Connecticut, we know how to do more one-on-one communication with people than other large organizations. And that's come across very important to people.
Now, as far as for people that don't know, what exactly is epilepsy?
Epilepsy is a neurological disorder that affects the electrical functions in the brain. And what happens is people living with epilepsy, either they could be born with it, they might acquire epilepsy as they get older. There's no specific black and white explanation of epilepsy, because if there was, I wouldn't be on the show today, and you wouldn't need nonprofits like ours.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
I don't know if you know this, but the first description of epilepsy goes back to 350 BC.
Wow.
And it's also written about in the Old Testament, so it's been around for a while. It's only the past 25, 30 years or so that it's actually been focused on. And as much as it has, it's still not focused on enough.
Really? Wow. And what exactly do you guys do as far as your organization goes, as far as getting the word spread on the organization?
Well, what we do is people find us, and sometimes we seek people too from others. And what we'll try to do with them is we find out what information they need. And I forget the name of an old show back in the 50s and 60s where you would sit down a series of questions, and until you had a yes answer, they would keep flipping the cards, and if that answer was no. And I'd be on the phone with people all the time, and maybe after the fifth or sixth no, I said, okay, we're going to flip the cards over because we're going nowhere fast. And they go, what's that mean? I said, let me explain. I said, so far, everything you've told me can pretty much be prevented if you're willing to follow certain guidelines.
Right.
We explained that to them, because my doctor never told me that. I said, well, guess what? Maybe it's time to change your doctor.
Exactly.
So we'll walk them through everything that we know, explain what it is, and the vast majority of the times, these people have made a change for the better just by following the basic things that we introduce to them, which they should know through their doctor first. But the majority of doctors out there are good, but you still have a handful like anything else.
Right. Now, what are some of those guidelines that you normally tell people, and maybe we can get into a little bit of detail of each guideline?
Sure. Well, I wouldn't go into too much detail, but if you go to our website, which is ct-ea.org, or just Google Connecticut Epilepsy Advocate,
Right.
you'll see the FAQ page there. And under that, the FAQ page gives a brief outline. But the basic thing people have to understand is that if you have epilepsy, you should have 3 square meals a day. You should always get 7 hours of sleep. Find out when you take your medications. And what I tell people is, don't even think about when you're supposed to. Set the alarm on your cell phone.
Right.
When it goes off, take your medication. Myself, I have about a 10-15 minute window either way. Mine is every 12 hours, so I could do it 9 in the morning, 9 in the evening.
Right.
But the bottom line is you check with your doctor and see what he or she says.
Exactly. And obviously one of the other things that we're going to talk about tonight is you guys are a nonprofit organization.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So being a nonprofit, how do you raise money? Or how do you get funded?
We're dependent upon one fundraiser, which is called Strikeout Epilepsy.
Yeah.
Strikeout Epilepsy 2018 is on Sunday, April 15th, a date you cannot forget. It's going to take place at Nutmeg Bowling in Fairfield, Connecticut.
Right.
It's our first time there. It's 2.5 hours of bowling where your score doesn't count. You just come down and have fun. And so while you're there's going to be pizza, some other food, soda. We'll have raffle items there. It's just an afternoon of fun, and we want people to come down.
How did the idea of the bowling event get started?
With our original board members, we had to sit down, and somewhere one of the previous board members said, why don't we have a bowling event? And I'm like, Yeah.
Sure.
Sounded good to me, and we tossed it around, and it was hands down, we agreed.
Wow.
And this is the 8th year we're having it.
Wow, pretty impressive. But you guys also do, I was doing some research today, and you guys also do blood drives?
The Connecticut Epilepsy Advocate sponsors blood drives for
Okay.
the American Red Cross. We have about 5 in the city of Milford over at St. Agnes Church.
All right. And that's every year, probably at various points.
It's about every 60 days, give or take. But
Okay.
you'll see that on our Facebook page. We constantly announce each one coming up.
Okay. All right. Now, as far as the event, as far as what's going on, how active are you guys in like the Connecticut State Legislature with what's going on up at the Capitol?
Well, we stay in touch with them for various reasons, but we did introduce a bill proposal.
Okay.
And what that has to do will help everybody. And that is, for years, people with epilepsy and other medical conditions, they need a specific brand of medication from their doctor. Whether it's the original manufacturer or it could be a particular generic. Certain brands, specifically a brand and not a generic, people pay a premium of a copay for it, or they
yeah.
pay a DAW, which is the dispense as written penalty. So that's not fair. So we feel by introducing this bill, this is the 2nd year we've done it, but this year it's not exclusive to epilepsy, so we feel any medical condition a person has, they should not have to pay that exorbitant copay, nor should they be paying any DAW, dispenses written penalties. That's not fair.
Now, what is the dispenses written penalty?
It varies. We have a friend of ours that we helped in north of Hartford last year, and hers was $3,800.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
That $3,800 plus the copay plus the deductible.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And there's others that are
Right.
a few hundred higher or lower. One's about 1,000 lower, but still, it's ludicrous for that amount of money.
It is. It's totally.
The way we look at it
Yeah.
is hypothetically. Let's say the copay you have for your particular medication is $20, but
Yeah.
I want the same one as a brand, so make it 30, 35, but don't bring this exorbitant amount. That's not fair.
No, totally not. Totally not. So, what else do you tell people when they come to your when they come to you guys for help and assistance?
It depends what they need. So whether they're looking to find a doctor, do they need help with medication, transportation. We have a young woman, we've interacted with her mother for the last 3.5 years. They approached us with some help, and we found out she goes to a summer camp every year.
Okay.
We pay for that. So that's one of the many things that the monies that come in from Strikeout Epilepsy or general donations goes towards.
What are some of the other things that monies go to?
Well, towards the end of last year, we know a gentleman, he's a veteran from the Korean War. He has epilepsy. He was coming to a support group for about 3-4 years or so.
Okay.
And then he just didn't show up for over a year. And then one day he walked in and some alarm went off in the back of my head. And I says, let's talk after the meeting. So after the meeting, we got together, met him the next day. We went over a whole list of things that he needed badly, including his car was in disrepair. He was suffering getting food. His cell phone bill was ludicrous. So we worked everything out. So long story short, we were able to give him gift cards so he could purchase food at the grocery store of his choice. We went to the local trade school. They repaired his car, and we do that for 2 reasons. It's more cost effective, and you're helping those students learn.
Oh yeah.
And we had someone kind enough that said, you gave him a gift card for groceries? He says, yeah, we're going to donate one too. And then we interact with the Miracle Air Foundation, because the cost of hearing aids is exorbitant.
Oh yeah.
So he was able, because we did all the paperwork and worked with the doctor, he now has a pair of hearing aids for free.
Wow. Oh my God, I didn't realize that
Yeah.
you guys as far as an organization are out there.
Yeah, but the bottom line is, if there's a person living with epilepsy in Connecticut and they need help, we do what we possibly can to help him or her.
And like you said before, you guys are a very small organization, but you reach the whole state of Connecticut.
Yeah, we're still small, and sometimes small is good.
Exactly. But wouldn't you think if you guys are so small, aren't you worried about getting all over the state?
No, not really, because the way I look at it is that because we are smaller than many others, we only have one chief and 2 Indians.
Right.
Where in many cases there's too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Exactly.
And my fellow board members are great. They're super cooperative. They really work hard to help, and that's the beauty of it.
Exactly. And what other advocate of epilepsy items can we talk about this evening as well?
Sure. Let's go back a second to the bill proposal.
Oh, yeah.
Because
That's
what
right.
the bill, whether there's a bill proposal or not, we want people to learn about medication.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I learned a few years ago, that you always hear, get a generic, get a generic. Well, guess what? A generic doesn't always work. And
Right.
what was explained to me from a chemist from one of the manufacturers is that a generic, by law, is only 80% of the original formula. So if you're used to 250 of A, 250 of B, and 500 in C to make 1,000, and it works for you. Right. Now you're only getting 80% of that formula. The rest is filler, and by law, there's no cap on a filler. So you're going to get more than 20% of a filler. The best way I could describe that is go to the gas station, and now you've got 30% ethanol. I don't think your car's going to run too good.
No, I don't think so. No.
So the same thing happens when your medication has so much filler in it. It doesn't really work for everyone. I myself, 3 of my epilepsy medications, I pay a premium for at the beginning of the year, and the rest are generic, and I have no problem with it.
Bob, would you mind sticking around for another segment?
Sure, not at all.
We'll be right back.
Newspapers and media outlets merging all over the country, communities are losing their local voice.
There's so much going on in the community that I think doesn't really, there's a lot of folks who are unaware of it. And I think things like this can bring it out into the community and in that way kind of bring the community together.
Information and to our residents is the key to good governance. And with the national media and local media not often covering us, this is an excellent opportunity for us constantly to communicate with our constituents and also to have them communicate with us.
The best outcomes will be achieved through a community-based organization that grows its operation and scale by means of locally produced programming.
All of our content is volunteer produced, so we do shows from talk shows to music shows, working with high schools.
VSC TV is committed to ensuring that the investment made to secure these powerful tools will pay great dividends in the community for many, many years.
And welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. Sitting here with Bob Fiore from the Connecticut Epilepsy Advocate. Bob, welcome back. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Thanks for sticking around.
Again, thank you for having us.
Not a problem. So, Bob, we were talking a little bit about during the first segment medications, and I was wondering if maybe we can open up this segment talking a little bit about medications and get a little bit into more detailed and into depth.
Yep, not at all. Epilepsy medications, there's close to 60 different ones.
Okay.
And again, as I mentioned earlier, since epilepsy is not a black and white issue, not every medication works for them. Right. If you go back about 150 years ago, even 100 years ago, there was basically 2 or 3 epilepsy medications, and that was it. And now in this day and age, with so many coming out, the cost of production, when something's the original brand, and once it goes generic, you know that some of the medications, there's so many generics, that there's a company in Pennsylvania that they're going to almost be like Henny Youngman. They're going to be the king of generic instead of he was the king of one-liners. Right. And they're based in Pennsylvania, but everything is manufactured in Jerusalem, Israel, and it's sent over here.
Wow.
So that's what makes a difference. And again, some people, generic medication is fine, but a lot of people with epilepsy, they need a specific brand.
Exactly.
And that's something we fight for, because if they need that specific brand and the doctor tells you over and over the generic doesn't work, then guess what? You can't take it.
Exactly. And like we said in the first half, that if you go on the generic brand of the medication, it probably doesn't work as well as the name brand.
Exactly. It 9 times out of 10 does not work at all, but no matter what, it doesn't work very well, and you don't want to take a chance with that.
No, definitely not. So what else do we want to talk about medications?
Well, medications, their cost is exorbitant, and we tell people that in many cases, if you are low income You go to the website, again, which is ct-ea.org, and there's a prescriptions page there.
Okay.
You scroll down, and there's a series of contacts for prescriptions, and people could see how they can get the most cost-effective one. If you are very low income, you work with the manufacturer, and they set up a program. It's a lot of paperwork to get filled out, but it's worth it. And either you'll have the medication for free, or maybe $5, $10 copay, which, considering what it could usually cost, even with insurance, that's great.
I was going to say, usually with insurance, the epilepsy cost for medication is probably pretty exorbitant.
Yeah. I think the bottom line with us is that because we're different, we're smaller, we have more time to pay attention to the individual and go work with them one-on-one.
Right.
And we just feel that's so much better that way.
Okay. And what else?
We've also helped people with transportation. We actually helped a doctor, a person find a doctor, and we put the doctor in. We've done this with 1, 2, 3, I'd say like 6 different people find the correct doctor for them, whether it was a regular MD, a psychologist, their neurologist, whatever it took to find for them. So there's many things that we do, but we keep saying this over and over, like I said before. Please go to the website, which is ct-ea.org. You know, there's about 27 pages on the website, and it's almost like a running joke, because was at an epilepsy support group about 7 years ago, when a person came in the room for the first time, and they had a question, and I explained what it was. I go, it's on our website. Next question, I explain, it's on our website. The third question, I'm getting ready to say it's on our website, and the whole room stood up and go, it's on his website. So, we cover a lot. So guess what? It's on our website.
So it's on the website. All
Yeah, exactly.
And actually, you and I have a couple of mutual friends we can talk about right now.
Absolutely.
One of them is...
Ladies first, Sarah Cody.
There you go. I was going to say.
Yeah. Sarah has been a great person, become a great friend.
Oh, yeah.
She's been a strong supporter of the Connecticut Epilepsy Advocate at Strikeout Epilepsy, which we mentioned earlier on Sunday, April 15th.
Yeah.
She's going to come down and participate, and I'll definitely let her speak to the crowd there.
Oh, definitely.
She was the host of the event last year.
Oh, nice, nice. And you guys actually, you were on with Sarah not long ago.
Correct.
That's actually how I got your information, and that's how you and I got connected.
No, Sarah's great.
Oh, she is.
I believe with the station she was at, and combined where she is now at News 8, we've done about 7 different interviews together, including the one regarding House Bill 5450, which ironically was 2 years ago today, when we're producing this show, that we went to Hartford, introduced our idea, which about a month later, or actually less than a month later, became the proposal for House Bill 5450, which is the palliative use of medical marijuana for children. And approximately 2.5 months later, the bill passed. And I was there for the entire time that it was brought up and when it passed. And that too is on our website.
Really?
Yeah.
Now tell us a little bit about House Bill 5450.
House Bill 5450 addresses the medical marijuana, which has a THC, which is tetrahydrocannabidiol, in there, which is 0.3% or less. So it is deemed hippie's disappointment. You cannot get high.
No?
Because we're not looking for anybody to get high. We want them to control their seizures.
Right.
And in my testimony, I brought up 4 different people that when they used that particular type of formula, we had a young kid that went from 3,000 seizures a month to 1 or 2.
Right.
1,500 to 1 or 2. To me, those numbers are pretty good. I wish I could do Powerball that way.
Exactly.
Because we win every week. But the bottom line is, if it could help someone that much, then why not give it a chance? Because this is pretty much their last resort, this cannabis oil.
Exactly. And you, with the legislature about to go back in session fairly soon for this legislative session, do you guys have bills going up for this session as well?
No, just the one I mentioned previously regarding the high cost of the copay for medication. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's. I'm sure you know it's really tough to compose a bill, speak to whomever. If you're lucky enough, you're called up to speak to the co-chairs of whatever committee you're speaking with.
Correct.
And that is a tedious task, but it's worth it, though, to help the people.
I was going to say, and I'm sure you've spoken to many chairmen of many committees up there over the years.
Yeah, it's something that when you actually sit down with them and you get to know the individuals and you see what they really want to help with, and that's when you really have to make that one-on-one with them, and you have to keep after them. I'll never forget that when we were doing House Bill 5450, I had sent out over 750 emails, whether it was to the Public Health Committee, the Connecticut Senate, the Connecticut House, the various members, whatever, but that we had to tell people we were monitoring this thing week after week after week. We didn't want it to fall by the wayside.
No, definitely not. Definitely want not. And obviously, you have a lot of information on the website, and the website again is
ct-ea.org. Plus, if you just Google Connecticut Epilepsy Advocate,
it'll pop up.
It'll pop up. Go to Facebook, go to YouTube, and type in Connecticut Epilepsy Advocate. You'll see a multitude of interviews there too.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Pretty cool. I didn't, like I said, I didn't realize that your organization existed in the state of Connecticut until I was watching you guys. I was watching you with Sarah, and I'm like, you know what? This guy could be a pretty good guest for me.
Well, she put in a good word for you too.
She did.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I owe Sarah Cody a cup of coffee then.
Definitely.
And as far as other events, you guys are obviously again a 501c3, which is nonprofit. So you guys raise money by doing bowling events.
It's just the one fundraiser, Strike Out Epilepsy.
Right.
Naturally, we always take a donation. We don't mind that.
Right.
And other than that, just helping the community, that we do sponsor those 5 blood drives a year with the American Red Cross.
Right, exactly. And those are usually in the Milford area?
Yeah, they're always in Milford at St. Agnes Church, which is on 400 Merwin Avenue.
Okay.
But just go to the Facebook page for Connecticut Epilepsy Advocate, or for mine, you'll see Robert Fiore there. And we always post every event there, so you can't miss it.
Exactly. And as far as like you and I were talking, and you said you have a blood drive every 60 days or so?
Approximately every 60 days.
Approximately, give or take every 60 days. Obviously, if you give blood, there is a waiting period in between blood donations, isn't there?
Yes. If the regular donation is every 56 days, if you do double red, which not everyone can do, just double that 56, and that's the next time you can donate. But that too is also explained on the website, ct-ea.org.
I guess, what is double red?
Double red is it's 2 pints of blood.
Okay. Really? Wow, it's pretty.
And not everybody qualifies for that. I thought I'd be donating double red, and they said because of your blood type, you can't. But I'm just happy donating approximately every 60 days.
Exactly. And obviously, it doesn't take that long.
It takes about an hour.
Yeah.
And if you don't mind, one of the reasons I started this, back in the 70s, a person living with epilepsy could not donate blood. And then I found out about 5.5 years ago that most of them, not all of them, can. And we explained that on our website, that there's a number to call with the Red Cross. They'll hit you with a series of questions, no matter what medical condition you have. And you see if you qualify to donate blood. The one thing I do know for a fact, if you do live with epilepsy, you have to be seizure-free for a minimum of 2 years. And then once you can do that, then you call the number that's on the website and explain what medications you're taking, what other medical conditions you have, and they'll give you either the yes or the no. And we always tell people, even if they give you the okay, check with your regular doctor and your neurologist too.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't. You're teaching me things. You're teaching me things. And we have a little bit more time left. So what else can we educate everybody about there?
I wish more people that if you know someone living with epilepsy,
Yeah.
or if you have epilepsy, you should go to the website, learn about it, which is ct-ea.org, and you read about the Connecticut Epilepsy Advocate. If you know someone living with epilepsy that needs help, give us a call. The number's on the website. Send us an email, because as I mentioned earlier, you call us, we'll have a standard series of questions, and we can help in any way we can, whether it's finding you a doctor, transportation, medication, therapy, whatever it is.
And what are some of the questions that you normally ask people?
We always want to know their basic age breakdown, what medication do they take, how long they have epilepsy. It's depending upon the gender, it affects people differently as far as the questions are concerned, as far as the epilepsy is concerned. So it varies with the individual. Even their age has an effect on it too.
Really?
Yeah.
How does your age have an effect on?
Well, in my case, I'm 63.
Okay.
So what I was able to do activity-wise, even though I'll go to the gym and work out, etc., where I was super active younger, a lot of things I could handle much, much easier. Yeah, I could still run a 5K, but if I ran a 5K 30 years ago, it'd be a piece of cake.
Right.
You know, things like that. So getting more sleep when you're younger, you can go with a little less sleep, but not too much. When you're older, you don't need that much sleep. But we always tell people 7 hours of sleep is the ideal thing for someone living with epilepsy.
Exactly. And if you get a little bit less than 7 hours of sleep, that's...
Try to rest, but in between.
Exactly. And website one more time before, because we got a little bit more time
Sure.
left.
Again, ct-ea.org, or please just Google Connecticut Epilepsy Advocate.
And you guys will pop up.
Yep, but definitely, when you Google it, check out the anything you see there, whether it's videos, photos, you can see a multitude of things and learn from that.
Really? Excellent. And like you said before, you can also go to YouTube and watch.
There's about 24 videos on YouTube, whether it's something here with the local television networks, affiliates. We've even been on Lifetime about 7 years ago.
Really?
So, and actually, after House Bill 5450 passed 2 years ago, we had most of the local media come right to my house for an interview.
Wow.
Sarah did an interview first.
All right, there you go. Well, Bob Fiore, I want to thank you for
Thank
coming
you
down.
so
We'll
much
see you
for
again
having
soon.
me.
On behalf of Bob Fiore, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.